We are live, folks. It is your boy Silly Sellers here, back for another episode for the Big Go Belt Media. And I got my friends with me. I got Damian G right here. I got the Giant Crab, but we got a lot of things to talk about. Are you ready? So let's gear this thing up to go, because here we go.
Big Go Belt, 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 Big Go Belt. All I really want is that Big Go Belt, 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 Big Go Belt. All I really need that Big Go Belt.
So what's up, ladies and gents? How are you all feeling today? Once again, your boy Silly here. Damian, how are you doing today?
Oh, we good, man. We got some wrestling to talk about. We have some blood and all this other good stuff. So I'm happy.
But not blood and guts, right? We got a different type of blood.
Different thing.
And Crab, how you doing, Jamal?
It's baseball season. Nothing else matters.
It
Literally
is.
nothing else matters. I don't even know why I'm here right now because baseball is happening. Actually, only
Because the
reason why I'm
Mets
here
got
is
rain delayed
because
to Friday.
we're in between games.
Mhm.
Baseball. So yeah, wrestling too, I guess, but baseball, all the
Got you.
baseball.
Well, let's say this first. Those of you that are celebrating the holidays, I hope you have a good holiday weekend for whatever you serve.
The
or
only
whatever
holiday
you
is
celebrate. Well, baseball too. We consider that a holiday. Opening day for baseball is a holiday.
Happy New
And-
Year.
And happy New Year to the baseball. But if we can take a second just to wish our condolences in the Baltimore area that, we're close to that. Most of us here in the Baltimore area. The Francis Scott Key Bridge unfortunately had a blunder that took place, and a couple of people did lose their lives. That's nothing ever easy when you see something of a magnitude of a bridge that you think is stable to get from either travelers by car to get from one side to another, or you got ports that's delivering important goods for us. And anytime you see a disaster like that, it's just always a tragic to see. So we just want to send our thoughts to those that are in the Baltimore area for that disaster. So definitely wishing you all the best. But we're here. We're going to talk about some wrestling. And we had an interesting week so far. So let me put this up first. And you can see it is scrolling on the bottom. But we definitely had an interesting closure to Monday Night Raw on this past Monday. First, let's bring it back a little bit. At the beginning of the show, Cody did come out, had a promo that he was talking about it. All of a sudden, you felt like somebody was going to come out just of how that promo was starting. And then all of a sudden, The Rock comes out. And when The Rock comes out, he comes in, love the new music that he has as a blend of his old and new themes to make it a little heelish. And then he comes out and just whispers. Now, if you're good at reading lips, you probably could have saw what he said live, but you may have to rewind it a couple of times just to get the two that leads to what happened later. And folks, we had blood. Yes. We had blood. And it was good blood. Now, the way the blood was staged was very interesting because of those that follow wrestling, it felt very 1980-ish when that happened, but it still happened. And it was still good to see of just that buildup. I thought it was done well. But the question is, and I know you all talked about this last week in my absence, but should WWE go back to blood full time, especially when Raw goes to Netflix less than a year away? Damian, let me take it to you first. What do you say?
I say thank you, and can I have another? Because it was, for me as someone who grew up in both the golden era, Attitude Era, PG, etc., occasional blood is good, especially if it's a quote-unquote blood feud. Because we don't want to overdo it like a John Moxley match, Crab's favorite wrestler, where if you get breathed on, you start bleeding. Yeah. So for me, especially with the program itself of Cody, The Rock, Roman, and now Seth's over here in the corner, but I just thought having those two, and all apologies to the tribal chief, but the final boss seems to have taken the wheel of this feud as of right now. And the fact that it was old school Attitude Era, which The Rock is originally from, and talking about he was going to whip Cody's behind from Mama Cody, with the belt. So for me personally, if it's warranted in this kind of feud and environment, then I'm all for it. Now, do I want to see Seth Rollins blade every Monday night? No, not at all. especially if we're going to Netflix. But then again, Netflix was the place I found out about Lucha Underground after it ran its course in syndication. So if the network wants it, then I guess we're going to see more of it. But if it's just for certain things, for certain feuds, something of this magnitude because it's WrestleMania season, or even because, hey, it's Dwayne, we're going to let Dwayne skate on this a little bit, so be it. Like that time Cena and Punk did the pile driver when it was universally banned a couple years ago on Raw. So I welcome it. It was a nice flashback. I don't want to see it, though, for every rinky-dink feud going on in WWE.
Damien, I'm gonna put this chat up from Myron Kidd. It's interesting to see what WWE didn't edit from this segment to turn black and white when Cody was bleeding on YouTube. Now, I'm gonna go back to you for a second, Damien, before I take it to Crab. Now, when you think about this, as far as it not being edited, and let's think about some of the profanity that took place where it was, blanked out. I won't say bleeped out. It was blanked out, but you could say it was on a delay. Do you think they're going to continue in this trend because Netflix that, hey, we don't need to edit anything for YouTube, especially when you have things of color like that? What do you think?
No, I think it's a separate thing. I think for YouTube, you got to clean stuff up to monetize. So you're not going to have somebody gushing pools of blood on a WWE product on YouTube and risk demonetization, or certain words and phrases used will get you automatically demonetized. It would be like if WWE went to Twitch, right? There's certain things they couldn't do. There's certain things they couldn't say, even though on one part of the flagship, you can get away with it. But if it's another platform, you kind of got to adhere to those platform rules to make money off of it. So it's interesting, like Myron said, but I understand why the change is needed and why the censorship is needed.
Crab, what do you think, man? Do you even care of how blood took place in this? Because I'm interested to hear from your take.
Well, it's so to parrot off of Damien's point, it is not necessarily that I need blood. This isn't the type of show where that is a thing that has to happen all of the time. If this were a deathmatch show, if this were a show that was a little bit more hardcore in its presentation, a little bit more realistic where people are getting bloodied the hard way, then that would be something that I would expect. But contextually, blood doesn't make sense all of the time. It should be used sparingly. It should be used as the secret sauce that elevates a storyline to that level, that next level. And that's exactly what they did here. And that's exactly, what they could have done. It makes sense. The Rock is the final boss. He looked absolutely like Sagat or Bison out there. And that, just kicking ass and taking names. So it's not necessarily about whether or not, oh no, there's blood, whether or not it's real blood or capsules or however they did it. I think that that's also part of the problem too. We are trying to dissect whether or not a storytelling element is good for the story instead of, does this story work? Did it actually do what they wanted it to do? Did it elevate the story to the level that sends it into a different place without it?
Right.
For me, that's the question. It's not necessarily like, blood, because I'm not giving anybody a hepatitis test. That's not something that I want to think about when I'm just trying to engage in the story as a consumer. So the long and short of it is it's not to me to decide that, like, well, blood, yes or no. And I know that some people that's a hard line for. They're squeamish, no blood, no questions asked. Okay, cool. But to elevate the seriousness of the story, to give it a little bit more oomph, that's what they needed to do. That's exactly what they did. And I think that in this moment, contextually, a week out from WrestleMania, it works.
Right.
Now, does that mean that, we should see this often? Hell, we don't even need to see it anymore this year. Mm-hmm. But it's just that, this is the right place, the right time to do a thing. I can say, to use another analogy, Independence Day, 1996. Good, bad movie, great entertainment. Mm-hmm. It didn't win any award, but visually it's crazy. Mm-hmm. Well, you fast forward 30 years, and I'm not saying that Independence Day doesn't hold up, but does Michael Bay need to blow up every single thing every single time? No. And it's kind of taken away from the storytelling aspect. So you got to use these special elements sparingly. You got to use these things, these surprises, sparingly. To the point where hey, they did a thing that they're not accustomed to seeing on TV. So when it happens again in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, it's going to be a surprise again, as it should be, whatever the story is. So The Rock is in an interesting position where he is not a 100% heel because he's still The Rock. When his music hit and the crowd, lost their marbles, cool. And then it transitioned into the Hollywood Rock theme. And then it's like, oh, shit. Business has just picked up.
Yes,
so that's just as impactful as seeing a bloody Cody Rhodes out there. And that's also, if you are a fan of AEW, you know what Cody Rhodes bleeding looks like. Right. So the Red Cross are not happy with him because they're like, we could have used that.
Right.
But the short answer to the scenario is it's a welcome addition to the story. I think that it's not something. It is something that they used correctly. And I got to give the devil its due. WWE has absolutely, in this story, I don't know what they're going to do for the other 12 matches because I'm not particularly interested in those. But for this story, they've been hitting it. Maybe not out of the park every time, but they've been absolutely doing the work that they need to do. It just needs to translate throughout the rest of the show. And definitely we will talk about the WrestleMania full card, and because it definitely seems to be top heavy. It's Cody, it's The Rock, and Roman, and Seth Rollins, and maybe Drew McIntyre. And then there's the rest of the show. That, for everything that they've done well, they need to balance the load a little bit. But we'll definitely talk about that later. But as far as the blood goes, it's not necessarily that I care. I am surprised that they're able to take that risk again, because they are a publicly traded company. It doesn't matter what I like; it matters what the sponsors like. And for them to do it and do it this way, I have no problem with that. It's a storytelling element. I'm an adult. We can have that element to end the show and be okay with it.
And just to piggyback off of that too, it's a lot of big names that don't have matches yet on the card, and maybe SmackDown will clean that up tomorrow as far as what's left on the WrestleMania on night 1, night 2. But like you said, it's very top heavy, and you still have some mega stars that have debuted that don't have matches. But let me go back to you now, this time, Jamal. Now, when you think about the dynamics of Netflix, right? WWE is still serving, and I don't mean serving in a bad way, but a lot of masters, which means you do have Peacock, NBC Universal that you still have to deal with because that's where your premium live events are, even though Netflix is going to be hosting Monday Night Raw and adding this element of blood. And then don't forget the CW too is still going to have the connection with NXT when they do all their moving for different things. Is blood still going to be an issue where, okay, this is going to be something like Raw exclusive, or does it need to be sporadically throughout all the platforms you have? And will the CW even jump on that board with this color?
So there's two answers to that. Part one is these shows are rated.
Yeah.
They're rated by the FCC. But Raw is live. So how could they know what's on the show? Oh, because they have to tell the government.
Yep.
So they have they have an idea of what the show is going to be so that it can be rated to let you or parents know what this show is. So yes, it is a live event and things can happen, but in general, this is what you can expect from the show. Also, on the other half of that is that WWE is a publicly traded company. They still have to appease their audience and their network backers, and they have to do that around the world. Yes, America being the biggest market that they're in, the most important market that they're in, that's where the line begins and ends. However, they are quickly going to do a thing and show a thing where they're trying to, they're not trying to alienate anybody. And we've seen what that looks like. We've seen Alexa Bliss come out as a cheerleader on Monday night and then be in a full bodysuit when they go to Saudi Arabia.
Yep.
because they still have to appease their audience wherever they are as best they can because money. So will Netflix allow blood? Well, treat Netflix like cable. That's all it is. It's a paid subscription service. It's not a matter of censorship. It's a matter of what they want the audience to have. Now, if Netflix had no censorship, guidelines, or if they weren't a family-oriented product, or if they were appealing to an 18-plus audience, if Larry Flint owned Netflix, would the product look different? Exactly. Would the product look different? Well, that's the network that ECW should have been on. If Larry Flint owned Netflix, but that's not what the reality is. The reality is that Netflix, much like any other traditional television network, still has to answer the sponsors, and they still have set guidelines of what that could look like. So I don't expect to hear overly crude and coarse language. I don't expect to hear or see intense and graphic violence, because the long and short of it is that if you go to McDonald's, just because they're owned by another company or they can operate inside a casino doesn't mean that we're going to see stripper poles in a McDonald's just because it's in a casino. It's still McDonald's,
Right.
No matter where you go, they still have to serve their core audience and their corporate sponsors. So I don't anticipate too much of a change because, and that's also Netflix paid what, $5 billion, something crazy like that. So why would they pay for something and not get the thing that they're paying for? And it's already going to be a struggle because WWE is going behind another paywall.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have the internet to get to watch cable. You have to have the internet and a Netflix subscription to watch WWE.
Yep.
So that's the question. Will people follow them behind a second paywall?
Jeez.
And if Howard Stern is any indication of what that looks like, the answer is not likely. Because he was the biggest thing in radio. He went to satellite, and 2/3 of his audience said, all right, good. We can listen to the reruns. We're good.
Yep.
And all you got to do is wait. Yeah, all you got to do is wait.
I'm about to say, Damien, get in there. What you think, Damien?
Oh, no, I'm with Jamal 100% on this because, to borrow your phrase, Salas, about serving multiple masters.
Yeah.
Whatever they want you to do, they paid for it. It sounds really dirty to say it that way, but that's the truth of the matter. So if they're telling, hey, one's got to say you had to have blood, you got to have innuendos like the Attitude Era, if that's what Netflix wanted, you got that, hey, that's what you got to do. If, let's say you said the CW and NXT, if they say you have to bring back Chad Michael Murray to bring back the CW 11 for a couple of episodes, that's what you do. So the money's been paid. WWE, this ain't their first rodeo, but to bring it all the way back to the question about blood, they'll be fine. I think it was just something that to go with what Jamal said, because he got me thinking as he was talking, did it help the story? Yes, because I believe it more now that Rock is truly the final boss by whipping Cody with the belt and causing him to bleed. So, yeah.
With the belt that said Mama Rhodes on it.
Mama Rhodes on it. So it added the extra oomph to this, which will segue into our other topic about now that we have Rock and Cody kind of taking 1A and 1B control of the storyline. Do we even care about Cody versus Roman?
Why don't we go there? And you hit it right on the spot, Damien. So here, we just put the tab up there, with The Rock and doing what he did on Monday Night Raw. And I say the thing about what's going on with the storyline exclusively with The Rock and Cody, there's so many teases and references that the internet community, or if you watch how, the videographers or the cameraman on Raw Monday is like, oh, I see this person here. Is that a tease? I see this on the bus or on the truck. Is that a tease? On top of just the way that The Rock is even revealing himself and building his own character development of this whole story, while Cody is trying to finish his story too. Is it overtaking what's going on with the tribal chief? What do you say, Damien?
I say for me, strictly, I'll speak for myself. yes, I care more about The Rock's involvement in the overall story with not just Cody, but with Seth, like I said, over there in the corner, and then with the bloodline in general, because I can't begin to say the amount of times on this show we kept saying that is the bloodline storyline beaten with a $2 steak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. It was stale, and then we got Sami Zayn. Then it got stale, and then we got main event Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso. Then it started to get stale again, and now you're gonna have Dwayne and Roman to spice it up. And now you have to spice that up even more by turning Dwayne heel or quasi heel, going after Cody and making it more interesting, because now we have night one, a tag match, which we didn't think we'd get because of Punk's injury.
Mm-hmm.
And then night two, you have intersecting storylines, potentially with Drew and the Bloodline, even though he's had his run-ins with them for like 3 years now. And then the Tribal Chief still here wanting me to acknowledge him, when in reality, I'm paying attention to more people over there. So the final boss has my interest. I love the way this is kind of turned, because remember, this started off with, is Rock only doing this to undermine the bloodline and get back on track to feud with Roman come SummerSlam because they don't need the title? Now it's more like, wait a minute, who really does run the bloodline now? Because The Rock is making all the moves here, and I'd believe more that he would run stuff because he's Hollywood Dwayne, more so being on the island of relevancy.
And you got to think about it here. When you think about maybe a video game reference, is the Tribal Chief ranked higher than the final boss? I mean, in a video game, do you see your final boss before you see the end of the game? Do you see it the second to the last person, or is the final boss the last person that you see? It's just really interesting to see.
Well,
depends if there's DLC.
Well, no, I mean, the question is, if Roman is the final boss, is he anticlimactic? Because that's really what it seems to be. For whatever reason, I don't follow the story, that closely. But when I do hear about it, when I do look into it, who do I see first? It's The Rock.
Always.
And Cody, luckily, doesn't really have to do much of the heavy lifting.
Nope.
Because it's The Rock. I mean, so I can't even blame Cody for this. This is probably the biggest opportunity he's had in his WWE career to be that guy. Fortunately, it's with The Rock. Unfortunately, it's with The Rock. And every time The Rock speaks, even his theme, when it's switched to Hollywood Rock, it's like, oh, shit. I don't know if I want Cody to win now.
Right.
And we spent so much time, caring about the story and finishing it. To be honest with you, does Cody even go to night two? Do we need him to? Because realistically, The Rock has not become the elephant in the room. He's become the room. And I'm not sure if I need Cody to do anything. And I definitely don't need Roman to do a damn thing. He can go. But the point is that the story has shifted from, will Cody get the one thing that he hasn't had in his career, to maybe The Rock should run the bloodline for the next year. And that's a problem. And that's a problem for Cody Rhodes. That's a problem for Seth Rollins. That's a problem who may not even be there once his contract expires. But that's a problem for Roman Reigns, who may not even be there because he's borderline retirement. So they have some very interesting questions to figure out over the next 12 to 18 months in WWE. Like long-term thinking here, because Becky Lynch says that she's in her final 60 days of her contract. 2 months. Who knows? It's going to be up and running. Seth Rollins' contract is up also this year, and
Drew's contract is up.
Who?
Drew.
Yeah, his contract is up as well. And though the good money would suggest that they all stay, but really for what? Because, and we've seen this happen in AEW too many times, where they bring in a bigger name, which knocks a couple guys that are on their way up down a peg, or puts the brakes on their stardom. If you are Seth Rollins and you know that you're 30 plus and this year at the end of your rope in WWE, not much more for you to do at all, and then The Rock comes in and pushes you way down the road.
Right.
If you're Cody and you've been building this thing for a year, and then The Rock comes in, And people are like, wait a minute, they're about to change the main event? Unfortunately, The Rock is one of one. And I hate him. I've never liked The Rock. I was never a fan of him. The wrestling, persona, never got into it. But he's the most entertaining part of this storyline. And that's a goddamn shame that he can come in literally off the street because of the writer's strike and go, no, we got it. And then when it didn't work, pivot immediately and smash it. New theme song, new merch. Craziness. So what do you do with Roman? Do we even care?
I'm at the point where I honestly don't. And that's really sad when we're talking about the WrestleMania main event. And we're talking about night one. We're not even talking about night two. That's the funny part. It's
all night
they get
one.
the night two cap. Now it's about night one, and it's nowhere. It's think about it this way. They would have to have Stone Cold Steve Austin and John Cena do something in ring for me to care more about that than I do against The Rock and the overall placement in the story. And I was a Stone Cold guy, but the fact that Jamal said it, entertainment, what's in the title, World Wrestling Entertainment. So more eyes are going to be on the product. And I know every year we hear people complain about part-timers, part-time this, part-time that. Well, what do you say now that Rock has kind of saved the storyline? Putting The Rock in the story saved the damn story because nobody really cared, to my estimation, about Cody Roman Part 2. We were tired of finish the story. We were tired of.
We were saying Sami Zayn should have won in Montreal.
Yeah.
Exactly. At Elimination Chamber. So the fact that we had to put this on life support and call in The Rock to save it, yeah, I don't care about Roman versus Cody anymore.
So let me ask you this then. Let's say that The Rock and Roman win night one. There is no night two, and you get Becky Lynch versus Rhea as the main event night two.
Wait, so have they admitted that if they win, there's no night two? I thought it was just Samoan
I thought there was a stipulation involved.
It was a stipulation. I think the match is going to happen, but it's who's going to be at ringside or who may be able to be there.
Rules.
Yeah. So if the Cody does win night one, then I think the bloodline will back off and they can't be a part of the match even on the side. But they'll still figure a way to get in there. But that was the stipulation. But it wasn't the fact of if Cody loses, he can't have his title match because he still will have it.
Yeah. This doesn't have the Daniel Bryan caveat. Right. This doesn't have the Daniel Bryan caveat. So that's what I'm saying. I don't even care about night two. I want to see Rock tag in, tag out, the promo. Hopefully we have my way levels of promo hype when we get to night one. And then when we do get to night two, whomever wins, what will The Rock's involvement be in night two is what we're more interested in.
Well, then,
not the match itself.
Bloodline Rules makes more sense then because basically a no DQ match.
Correct.
And they can bring in everybody.
They
can bring, Cody can bring in, Dustin to help. Cody can bring in John Cena to help. I mean, Cody can bring in literally everybody to help him overcome the bloodline because there's no reason why the bloodline wouldn't come down, all 97 of them, to jump Cody Rhodes. It's for the title.
Correct.
Why wouldn't you have that happen on a match where anything can happen?
Yep.
So,
for me, go ahead. Sorry,
Jamal. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Which for me, I think is what they're aiming for with the inclusion of the shot of Austin and Cena on the truck because they say everything matters, right? Yep. So you have Drew talking to Heyman in the back. You have the shot of the truck. So in my weird booking brain, I'm over here thinking, yes, Rock and Roman win night one because Drew cost Seth the win. That's him helping the bloodline. During Bloodline Rules, it goes back to when we had Sting versus Triple H, when we had the NWO rundown, then we had DX rundown, and it was a whole fracas for the same thing that I see night two ending on, where we have Cena and Cena and Stone Cold coming to the aid of of Cody against not all 97 members of the bloodline, and then the kids go home happy because we got to see everybody and their mama. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it's booked, but it still doesn't save Roman versus Cody. You have to add all these alternative things to throw it in the pot like Salt Bay just to make it bearable. And you don't want to say that with a WrestleMania main event. And the last time I felt this kind of bummed out about a night 2 was when when Roman wrestled Brock on night 2 when it was here in Dallas or Arlington. Nobody cared. We cared about night 1 Stone Cold main eventing against Kevin Owens.
Yep.
That's the same thing. Nobody cares about night 2. It's the main event of night 1.
Let me throw this in before we go to a commercial break. Is how this is booked, because really it's a whole lot of ways that we can book this story. If it's booked the wrong way, does it tarnish Roman's status of having this championship for a long time up to this point? You
does it tarnish Cody's status as trying to be the guy?
That's who I'm more worried about.
There's more worried about Cody than Roman.
Right.
That's fair enough. Why do you say worry about more Cody than Roman? Of course, it's obvious.
Because Cody's trying to get to a place where Roman's been for 1,000 days.
Got it.
Yes.
I mean, like Roman already has all of the check marks. Is he a Grand Slam champion? I'm pretty sure he is.
Who? Cody?
Roman.
I don't know if he's a great. I don't remember him winning the U.S. title. Did he? I
think he's won that.
He's won that. Okay,
yeah,
I know. It's been.
I'm pretty sure he's won a mid card title. He's been a tag champion, and he's won a heavyweight title.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I mean, like I don't know if he's won every single one, but they also change every now and again. So I don't know which belts specifically are available at the time. The point is that there isn't really much for him to do. He's won a Royal Rumble. He's been a champion forever. He's, what else could he possibly do? Cody's literal story is about trying to get to that place once. And that's what we're talking about. I mean, Roman Reigns is on Bill Russell levels of territory. He's won 11 championships and won 15 times.
Right.
Cody's trying to get there once. And if he doesn't get there, and if all the things that we've talked about with the introduction of The Rock, with the fact that this night 2 match could be a giant fracas and have all these other elements that takes away from Cody himself, it just screams that Cody ain't the guy. And if he can't win it this time with The Rock, against all the odds and the elements, then he's never going to be the guy. And that's a more frightening proposition if you're a fan of Cody or if you want the story to finish than whether or not Roman's going to be a champion for 1,459th day or whatever the hell it is up to now. Will he catch Bob Backlund? That's the question for Roman. Will Cody win it once, ever, so that he can tell his dear old deceased daddy that he did it? Will Goldust show up? I mean, those are the questions. It's about his legacy.
Right.
Ironically, it's about the Rhodes legacy with the actual bloodline being there. But they're not really presented it that way. So Cody has a lot more to lose than to Roman, because if he's not going to win the championship, he should just go back and run AEW.
So this
and I'll be brief. I'll be brief and just say I agree with Jamal to the point of just if Cody loses or wins in a fracas, it doesn't help him at all. He's never been the guy in WWE. He's always been billed as the never did it. And what happens when they finally do it? Sometimes they're just not a great champion. And to be quite honest, I don't see Cody as corporately, yes. But is he going to make me want to buy tickets to go see him at a B-level pay-per-view? No. So that's what I would be worried about. We're talking about long-term booking. Shoot, if you're going to have Roman take a vacation, you might as well have Dwayne win the title, and then he'll show up more occasionally and wrestle like at big events like at Saudi Arabia. And then you'll get more buzz that way.
Absolutely.
Honestly, that's the move. If you like, honest to God, somehow, some way, whoever comes out of the pay-per-view is becoming less and less relevant because he just give The Rock the title. Have him come to the belt be the XFL guy with the belt. UFL, sure. Because they're united now. Have him go to Saudi Arabia with the belt. Have him be The Rock with the belt. That means a hell of a lot more than just Cody Rhodes or just Roman Reigns, because none of those guys are crossover stars. So
Absolutely.
if you are WWE going into this Netflix deal, who's a bigger champion?
True.
To start off the first night of Raw on Netflix, The Rock
Mhm.
or somebody that's not The Rock?
Right.
Ooh, we got a lot still more to talk about, guys, but let's take a quick commercial break. Let's get some water, get your wine, whatever you want to drink and sip on. We'll be
Wow.
right back
Low energy.
in a minute.
A little birdie told me, everybody, that you may be interested in doing some sponsorship and advertising opportunities with us here at Big Gold Belt Media. You know what? You might as well, because we are the golden standard for all of your media needs. Why would you want to go anywhere else? Besides, all of your pre-roll ads, your mid-roll ads, as well as your on-air reads are going to be done by me, Damian G. Yeah, professional broadcaster, Damian G. We do all types of social media promotions. That means your podcast, your IG, your Facebook, your Twitter, and your business website all get shouted out on our network here at Big Gold Belt Media, where we cover wrestling, movies, comics, and more. And you can find out more information and make those inquiries, kids, because, limited time offer here at Big Gold Belt Group at gmail.com. Again, that is Big Gold Belt Group at gmail.com. Why would you want to go anywhere else? I wouldn't. Well, I work here, but I still wouldn't even if I didn't. So again, Big Gold Belt Media for all your sponsorship and advertising opportunities, your podcast, your IG, your Facebook, your Twitter, all of your social media platforms, as well as any business website you want us to promote on our show. Big Gold Belt Group at gmail.com. And let them know Damon G sent you.
All right, we are back. Now it's getting ready for our indie spotlight. Jamal,
Yep.
Let's go ahead and send it to you. What you got for us upcoming?
So sticking with the WrestleMania theme and sticking with the slew of indie shows that are going to be going on in the greater Philadelphia area. This one is one of the ones that I'm very excited about. And if I were not going to be in Dallas on the same day, I would actually be at this event. Spark Joshi Wrestling presents Trailblaze 2024. It's a Japanese women wrestling show that features Japanese women's wrestlers that have come over from Japan, and of course a lot of local talent as well. It's you have Mayu Iwatani who's the IWGP Women's Champion. She's going to be there. Billy Starks is the world champion, who's hell of a wrestler in her own right. Saki from Colors is going to be there. Tam Nakano, Starlight Kid, Mina Shirakawa, AZM Azumi, if you will. Sumi Sakai, who is the Invisible Hand, if you know, you know. Vert Vixen, Danny Moe, Aja Kong, Janai Kai, shout out to Janai Kai, and so many more are going to be on that show, and that is Spark Joshi Trailblaze 2024. That's Sunday, April 7th, which is WrestleMania Sunday. Show starts at 2 o'clock. Doors open at 1. It's at the Monster Factory. That's 541 Mantua Avenue in Paulsboro, New Jersey. Paulsboro is south of Philly on the Jersey side, like right off of 295, about 20 minutes from the Walt Whitman Bridge. So an easy drive if you're just trying to get from the spot to Lincoln Financial, up 295, across the bridge. You're right there. Stop at Tony Luke's and get me a cheesesteak if while you're at it. But Spark Joshi Trailblaze 2024, you can get your tickets at sparkjoshi.com. You click on tickets. Tickets are going fast. It will sell out because a lot of these guys that are ladies that are on the show are going to be at the Stardom show. They're going to be at the DDT show. And of course, AEW has a strong presence on the indie scene in that area as well. So a lot of talent, good talent in one place. It's a little bit off of the beaten path because you have WrestleCon in Philly. You have, WWE experience in Philly at the convention center and all of that. NXT is at like 11 in the morning. Super Card of Honor is going on. So a lot of big shows, a lot of smaller shows. But this one is going to be one to watch. Spark Joshi Trailblaze 2024 at the Monster Factory in Paulsboro, New Jersey. SparkJoshi.com for tickets. But one quick thing, too. If you're driving up in general, because of the Key Bridge collapse in Baltimore, it's going to put a lot of traffic on 95. Because of road work in Center City and Philly, they're getting a big-ass new park over at Penn's Landing. Your traffic's going to be an issue. Center City, Philadelphia, if you've never been, is habitually crowded. A lot of side streets and one-way streets. It's a very old city. So whatever you're going to do it early. Plan ahead. check the weather, check the roads, make sure you have your easy pass for tolls and stuff like that. You don't want to get caught out there. But Spark Joshi in Paulsboro, New Jersey, just outside of Philly. And that's the Indie Spotlight for this week.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamal. Now, let's go to an interesting story that's taken place. And let me introduce it, and I'm going to send it to Damien first. So, of course, when sometimes you have these interviews or offbeat, conversations, sometimes you get revealings that it's like, oh, wow, I didn't know that was a part of that story. For me, I just looked at Quiet on the Set that talked about the documentary it was good, of Nickelodeon and what it was and being a child actor and one of the head people and what it was like just being a showrunner during that time. And so many interesting stories just came out of that, if you grew up on that Nickelodeon phase. But here we have Becky Lynch that made a comment about Ronda Rousey that was important. Damien, what you got for us on this?
Okay, so a little background for everybody. Becky Lynch has been on the book promoting tour for her new book, and she stopped by Ariel Helwani's MMA podcast. And if you know Ariel, he's a big wrestling fan, even though he has beef with Tony Khan, which I find humorous. But the question came up about Becky's career and the handling of one Ronda Rousey within WWE, because if we all remember, the triple threat match between her, Ronda, and Charlotte was the first women's main event in WrestleMania history, when originally it was supposed to be Becky versus Ronda. So a claim came out, or at least in the interview, they're talking about how Ronda was handled poorly. So I'm going to give you some quotes here. Quote from Becky Lynch: "I think when you love this, you look to try to make it better. How can I make this better? She, Ronda, was coming from a different industry. She was a star. And she should have been handled differently in terms of, I think she had a great first outing that everybody thought, oh, she can wrestle. And I mean this with all respect, but she couldn't wrestle, is what Becky says. What we do isn't something that you can just have one good match and say, okay, yeah, now we're off to the races. It's a craft. And you have to learn your craft, and you have to be diligent about learning your craft. But everybody treated Ronda like she already knew it, because when she first came in, she had a good first bout. She was working with Kurt Angle. She was working with Triple H, Stephanie McMahon. It was well rehearsed, but basically because everybody wanted her to succeed. And then it was like, okay, she can do this, off to the races. And that was mishandling her. And it goes on to say more things about her coming from MMA and bringing something to the table in terms of wrestling. But Becky's basically saying during Ronda's first run, after that first match, there was nowhere for her to go but down after that, because she had such a strong showing in that tag match. Now, going back and watching Ronda's performances, for me as a fan, as someone who appreciated the crossover, yeah, there's not many times I could say Ronda had a kick-ass match after that first one. Maybe against Sasha at the Rumble during her first run. Maybe when she pulled off that good match with Nia Jax when Nia during her first run with the company. But aside from that, nothing really springs to mind, because even that match with Charlotte in back-to-back Manias wasn't that great. So I think there is a little evidence to the fact that we forget Ronda wasn't a grappler in MMA or in UFC. She was a grappler in terms of judo throws, but not professional wrestling. So it wasn't Kurt Angle 2.0. It was, oh, she had a really good crossover match, but we might have overestimated her ability in the ring based on who she was with that first couple of times out.
Crab, what you think about that?
So here's the problem. WWE, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, is the McDonald's of wrestling. I'm never going to go to WWE for the type of technical prowess that I expect when I want to, that I define as a good match. That's what I'm into. I love chain wrestling. I love catch style. Give me 70s British wrestling over whatever happened in the last month of Raw every single day of the week. Does that make WWE bad? No. Because you could argue that, well, Netflix paid a metric fuck ton of money for it. It's not for me.
Right.
So to say that Ronda didn't do the work well or that she was mishandled because she was inexperienced and stuff like that, that's valid. I'm not going to say that's not. But who in WWE am I looking for if I'm going to see somebody that's technically proficient? Realistically, there's only a handful of them. Chad Gable, Shelton Benjamin, Chad Gable, Brock Lesnar, Chad Gable,
Brock Lesnar.
Right.
Throwing a Dolph
These are
Ziggler
actual
here and there.
amateur wrestlers. And just because you've done it for a long time, because Becky Lynch has been out there forever, Seth Rollins has been out there forever, Roman Reigns has been out there as long as Rollins has.
Yeah.
But Roman Reigns is a terrible wrestler. Is he a good performer? Well, that's what WWE wants to know because of the E in entertainment. So Ronda, for what it's worth, they were able to hype up her performance and get that over. Right. Because I think that Ronda is just as good as wrestler as Nia Jax is. But I've also long said that Nia Jax should have gone to NXT. She should have honed the craft to get the fundamentals down, and they can build around that. Nobody wants to talk about Hulk Hogan AWA wrestling versus Hulk Hogan Wrestlemania wrestling. That's not the same guy. But which one is a bigger impact on the industry? It's not even close. So yes, I understand what Becky Lynch is saying, but I also think that it's a bit unfair to say it, knowing good and damn well that ain't too many actual cooks that are trying to innovate in WWE, when realistically they're just serving Big Macs because it tastes good.
Right.
I'll say this, for me, I never was a huge, Ronda Rousey fan as she came into WWE. And once again, everybody has to understand that when you come into this business, it's not easy to do. Like, granted, you can have different backgrounds like mixed martial arts, UFC, whatever the case may be. When you have to be on the mat and actually wrestle or use some type of wrestling elements in your performance, it's not always that easy. Sometimes you could be stiff. Sometimes you could be green. Sometimes you have the look that feels like you can do the part. You may have the athleticism to do the part, but sometimes you just can't do a particular dance when it comes to that way. And I think, Ronda, I got to give her effort. She tried. She really did try. But it's just the fact of when you see how, when she had to go against those higher profile matches or those higher profile wrestlers that's been doing this, that's been trained in a way that they naturally have the ability to do that, I was just never a fan of her performance. And sometimes, like Becky kind of said, you have those rehearsed moments where you can do that, where let's say that first 5-step sequence that you got to do within the match of the chain wrestling, you could do that. But when you have to go on the fly and then make moves off of moves because the crowd is having to react and you have to make adjustments on the fly, you're not good at that. But you are athletic enough to try to be on there. But I was just never a huge fan. To say that she was exposed, beggars can't be choosers. You can say she was, but it's just the fact of some people can do it, but some people just can't.
And that's the thing, going to what Crab was saying, it started off great. Started off Kurt Angle, Triple H, her manhandling Stephanie McMahon, even though she started the women's revolution, according to Crab. It was good to see because we had a build-up from the year prior with The Rock and her jumping the barricade, things like that. There was nowhere for her to go but down. So if you are a wrestling purist, like you were talking about Billy Robinson-esque British style wrestling, right, Jamal? So
absolutely,
we weren't going to get that with Ronda. We were going to get a dressed up version of look at all this awesomeness, the baddest woman on the planet. That was WWE saying, hey, we got such a good response from her first time out. Let's put the belt on her. Let's get more eyes and butts and seats to get more eyes on the product. Sure, you had Charlotte Flair over here. Sure, you had Becky Lynch and Bayley and Sasha, but Ronda, in the Vince growl. So from a money-making standpoint, Ronda did exactly what she was supposed to do.
Let me add on to that and say The Undertaker, Steve Austin, Kane, Jimmy Snuka. Are they great wrestlers?
No.
No, I mean, like I would say no.
Austin
Are they
used to
great?
be before the injuries, but
Well,
not Stone
maybe.
Cold. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Stone Cold was never a great wrestler. Stunning Steve Austin, sure, but they're great performers, and that's the thing. That's what it is. That's what she was there to do. That's why they brought her there. And the only difference between Ronda Rousey and Nia Jax is that Ronda came in as a star. That's the only difference. They were both greener than goose shit and were sent out there to do a job.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. So I think it is a bit unfair to say that that Ronda was a bad wrestler when realistically WWE doesn't make great wrestlers in general.
They make entertainers.
They make damn good entertainers. But there are very few actual wrestlers. And when we saw good wrestlers come in, innovating and doing different things, they were Sin Cara.
Mm-hmm.
So
doing too much. Yeah,
they were doing too much. Or when they actually had, interesting, innovative wrestlers, they became the Mexicools.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
So, I mean, so that's the problem, and I think that's where the disconnect is for me.
And you know what? You reminded me of something, Jamal, where Becky Lynch, for as good of a wrestler she was in NXT or billed as this great wrestler, she didn't get over on her own until she beat up Charlotte and then became the man. Yep. So what did she have?
No, she got over because Nia Jax made her ass famous.
Well, that too. Okay, yes.
Due to blood.
That was the T-shirt.
Due to blood.
The bloody nose made her a big star. Correct.
Right.
So was it because of her wrestling? No, it was because she got a bloody nose and she became like this last kicker. So we struck with her and was hot with Becky.
Because we don't want to talk about Becky Lynch doing a river dance in NXT. We don't want to bring that up, do we?
Oh, we don't want to talk about Becky Lynch being the fourth of the four women, but that's just my opinion. But she is the man now, and I agree with all of your points. And the way I feel about it is, look, she's trying to sell a book. She didn't mean it in a malicious way. I think her and Ronda were on good working terms. Yep. She just thought Ronda could have been handled better and not be sent out there, not to die, but to flounder like a Magikarp after that second run specifically.
Indeed. Ronda used Splash. It didn't do anything.
It was not effective.
Let me ask you this then. A lot of the things that we're talking about kind of reminds me of, do you think because of that we haven't seen Jade yet in a meaningful way?
Yes.
That's a very good point. Very good point. And it's different what she did in AEW as far as, okay, let me Goldberg style dominate the whole women's side of the roster versus, okay, now I got to put you up against people that's going to be probably a little bit more athletic in a wrestling type way, not a athletic performer, but in a wrestling type way. Are you going to look good in this if we have you go for about 10 or 15 minutes? Can you last that long in a match? And you don't want to repeat your same thing just on bringing the name over.
I agree with you completely. I think that's the main reason, if I had to guess, that's why Jade hasn't been, up until now, featured on WWE programming in ring.
Yep.
That's why you have her for spots like the Rumble. Then originally she was supposed to be in the Chamber. Yep. But apparently, because they wanted to get Tiffany Stratton over, they didn't want to put Jade in the Chamber and then have to have one of them to put the other one over.
Yep.
Because we're still shaving Jade. So, and look, now we have Jade debuting tomorrow? And we don't even know how. We don't know if it's in ring. She's just going to be a SmackDown performer. So if Ronda would have started in NXT, that would have been interesting, but she was already too big for NXT.
Right.
Because as we said, she was already established star. Jade's coming from AEW, where all you had, even though it's, one of our favorite wrestlers, the Nightmare Factory with our man TJ Marshall. So
QT Marshall, sir.
QT Marshall, sorry. It's good to keep her out until she's ready, because you can't do 5-minute squashes with Jade, at least in my opinion, at this stage. She's already been introduced. She's not a random call-up. They know that's the next big thing, to borrow from Brock Lesnar. We got to protect her at all costs. So we'll see what happens.
And as we're coming up on time, speaking of name and protecting of all costs, is AEW protecting Mercedes Mone? Or is her bloom already going off like we don't care anymore? And then she's lost her steam for what she had a couple of weeks ago with her debut in Boston. Jamal, I'm gonna send it to you first.
I want to make it quick, and I'm just gonna say AEW is not doing her any favors by running the exact same program that they ran with CM Punk, running the exact same program that they run with Saraya, the exact same program they run with every big free agent signing. Oh my God, they're here. How did they get here? Who let them in the back door? Well, they're not going to wrestle yet. We got a pay-per-view to promote. So they're just going to do random things around the ring like Elias Sampson before we actually get to introduce him. We know who Mercedes is. We know that she wants to come back to work. We know that she's a boss of some company.
Something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What we don't know is that how she looks in the ring after her injury. That's the only question that we need to ask and answer. And here we are, and we're no closer to answering that question. She has a new wig. She has a new outfit. Her theme song is still trash. We don't know what her first feud is. And suddenly, as a boss, she is very interested in the mid-card title for women.
Right.
But none of that matters until she gets to the ring. When will that happen? They have a pay-per-view in 3 weeks. Obviously, they're stalling until then. Why debut her in Boston if March Madness is going to happen, which is going to mess up the AEW schedule?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They could have waited till after that. They could have rescheduled Boston. They could have done a lot of different things. But the point is that they're really not doing her any favors by just having her make a special announcement or be on the show, wedged into a segment. I will say that her presence has paid dividends in some ways because there is an actual women's feud going on. Hot damn.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be interesting to see where she fits in after Britt Baker comes back, after Hayter comes back, after Hikaru Shida returns from the Paywall of Honor. It's like the mist in Elden Ring. But it will be interesting to see what happens when they actually are cooking with the full deck. But until that happens, we're just stuck with another hype announcement. Get her ass in the ring. Get some squash matches going on. Let her, give people a reason to watch Rampage or Collision. Yep. I mean, these are the things we need to see her. We need to see tangible growth, and we haven't yet.
What say you, Damien?
I'm bored already, and I was a Sasha Banks stan, if you want to call me one of those, when she came up from WWE, from NXT into WWE. I rooted for her. I wanted her to be the more successful horsewoman after a while. And now she's come over to AEW, and like Crab said, she just became another person already in 3 weeks.
Yep.
And then the way she's presented is a tad confusing because she came out day one with this baby face, I'm home, it's good to be back promo. And on commentary last night, she was paying all this homage to everybody in the division until she got to Willow, and she was like, well, I don't want to talk about her. Coming across a little heelish. So it's like, wait a minute. Are you the goofy, giggly face that's happy to be back? Or are you the CEO of the MLM that I said a couple of weeks ago, the multi-level marketing scheme?
Amway.
And you're just like, I'm just going to be the caddy B from, apartment 23. So for me personally, I'm already bored.
Yeah.
For me personally, I would have loved to have seen her in the ring by now, but I get why they're waiting. But now it's too long of a wait. If the main match is supposed to be her versus Willow, y'all should have got this over with already. Main evented a Dynamite in her hometown, or made it a best 2 out of 3 falls and have her lose one with a DQ to protect her. But now we want to bring more oomph back to the TBS title that is held by Julia Hart, who we've spent the last 2 years building up, only for her to inevitably lose it to Mercedes Mone. And I don't care.
So let me ask this. You said something interesting. I'm just curious, real quick, before we get ready to close out. Damien, I'm going to start with you. Out of the 4 horsewomen, and think about where they all started in, because we touched on all of them. Who's been the most successful one in your opinion?
Charlotte. And it pains me to say that as not a Charlotte fan. And I'm strictly talking from wrestling. I'm not mentioning crossover.
Yep.
When I watched NXT during the women's revolution that Stephanie McMahon started, according to Crab,
Yep.
I had it as Sasha first, Bailey second, third was Charlotte, and then fourth was Becky in the horsewoman hierarchy. Now, if I wanted to include the rest of the division, like Paige and Tennille Dashwood, formerly known as Emma, I would have had those two ahead of Becky during that women's revolution in NXT.
That evolution theme that she had. Oh my God, it was great. But go ahead.
So to see now that for me, Becky still probably third, Bailey second, only because her successful heel run, and Charlotte's still first in terms of wrestling, with, in my opinion, Mercedes the bottom of the four, because her promos are still shit, and they've been shit, and they will continue to be shit. Because, like I said 3 weeks ago on this show, you should give her Stokely Hathaway to be her mouthpiece. And it would be easier to make her a heel because Stokely is so hateable and so detestable in a comical way. And then you have Willow and you have Statlander as her goons, you know, her downline, if we're keeping the MLM theme, and that would write itself. And then you would be able to protect her. But that's not the route we're going.
I'm going to go second here. I'm going to just say quickly, and I'm going to shift to you, Jamal, for you to close us out on that one. But I'm going to say Bailey. For me, Bailey, if she wins at Mania, which I expect her to win, I think her full story of how she kind of transcended SmackDown, which SmackDown kind of led to her leading the whole COVID era, I would say, and her just dominating and really just keeping things stable, and then being back on top of, as well as elevating others in the stable. That's just more recent. But I give her that credit long term, and I would say Bailey's my number one. But Jamal, who would you say?
I would say Bailey is number one, just because of the fact that she's had two top level, promotions as the super baby face, where you couldn't imagine her being a heel, and then yet she is one of the better heels in the women's division, and then of course leading Damage Control and doing the whole thing, and even during their injuries and stuff like that. So I think that Bailey has had the more well-rounded career, where Charlotte has just been Charlotte. You either love her or you hate her, but she's just been like, I'm Charlotte, the CEO. Yay, cool, girl power, or boo, capitalism. It's just a matter of opinion whether or not you like her or not. When Sasha Banks was the boss, it was still more to the point of like, well, of what? Oh, that was a boss thing that she did as a heel. That was okay. I could see where she's actually running shit now. The boss isn't necessarily of a literal business. It's the actual wrestling. And then Becky Lynch happened, and she was doing her Lucky Charms dance in NXT. And then Nia Jax broke her nose and made her ass famous. Yeah, cool. Go figure. I still think that it still holds true. Bailey is still out there doing the work. Unfortunately, Charlotte's been more injured. So she's been away a little bit more. And then, of course, with Mercedes leaving and Becky Lynch bringing up the rear, I still think it stands that way. And that's, that's unfortunate, but it is still a hell of a run from Bailey, though. Because she definitely didn't start in the place that she is now.
No, not at all. All right. Well, that is our time for today, guys. What a great show. You can always join us live 8 p.m. Right here on our Big Gold Belt Media Network, or through YouTube, or whatever platforms you want to see us on, Twitch, X, whatever you can always catch us. But like we always do, movies, wrestling, comics, content, whatever you want, we got it for you. Interviews, we got it for you. Just log in, subscribe, or check in, subscribe with us, follow us, whatever you need to do. Big Gold Belt Media, we got everything you need. Any last words, gents, before we close it out?
The Ace game starts at an hour, so we need to wrap this up.
Yep, got you. Yeah, you have to go back to your baseball. Once again, Happy New Year for everybody, for our baseball fans. Let's see. Krabby, let me just shoot this to you. World Series prediction now. Who do you have?
Oh, wow.
Oh, right now?
Right now. New Year's Day, right now.
Right now, I'm going to say, and this is the wild one, I'm going to go Baltimore and Arizona in the World Series.
Ooh, okay.
And that's a bold prediction.
That is very bold.
That is bold.
Not your top markets, but have been very successful lately, especially coming off last season. We'll see if
Yeah.
the O's can do it. Once again, shout out to those in Baltimore. Make sure you take care of yourself. But you can always join us here. But until we see you again, we got you next time.
All I really need